Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror suspense films from 2023, titled Night Shift. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens as we see a woman named Gwen Taylor driving alone on a dark, silent night. She soon stops at a motel named All Tucked In, located in an isolated place. Just then, Gwen is surprised to notice a butterfly necklace on the dashboard. She grabs it, and exits the car. Gwen enters the lobby and rings the bell at the front desk, but no one comes out for quite some time. Growing uneasy, she steps outside and walks around the strangely quiet place. Not long after, she comes across Teddy, who turns out to be the owner of the motel. We then learn that Gwen has come here to work as a night shift manager, and has recently relocated to this town. At this moment, a bare head named Yogi hanging on the wall suddenly crashes to the floor. The duo lifts it up and hangs it back up. Teddy then gives Gwen a tour of the rooms, and she notices it's filthy, and crawling with insects. But he assures her that most rooms are clean, except for room 8, which she'll need to take care of. After this, Teddy leads her to the supply room, where he uses a brick to prop the door open. He explains the door only opens from the outside, so the brick keeps them from getting trapped inside. Next, Gwen explores the property, and soon stumbles upon an abandoned pool. It has a massive hole at the bottom, and Teddy explains how the sinkhole sucked all the water from the pool last summer. He had contacted the county for repairs, but the process had been painfully slow, and they are finally scheduled to come and fix the pool this weekend. Afterward, Teddy prepares to leave, and a worried Gwen asks about the security at the motel. He mentions that there's one CCTV camera out front, but Gwen doesn't think it's enough, as she's alone in such a remote place. However, he reassures her, saying nothing bad has ever happened at this place. Teddy adds that there's an axe next to the vending machine, and if she feels unsafe, she can lock herself in the parlor and call him. But as Teddy drives away, Gwen's attention is caught by someone peeking out of a window from one of the rooms. She then heads to the front desk, where she sees that room number 6 is rented by someone named Alice Marsh. Gwen immediately walks to Alice's door and calls for her, but there's no response. Moments later, the door creaks open just slightly, and Gwen asks if Alice needs anything, so Alice coldly responds no. But before she closes the door, Gwen catches a glimpse of her bloodied fingers. Later, as Gwen is taking out supplies, she notices a mysterious black car approaching. Her heart skips a beat, but the car eventually passes by, and brings her relief. She then heads to room number 8, and begins its thorough cleaning. When Gwen exits the room, she notices a woman entering the lobby, and thinks it must be a new guest, and enters the lobby, but strangely, finds no one there. Brushing it off, Gwen orders food from the nearest restaurant, and later, she stares at the necklace she found earlier. Suddenly, the reception phone rings. Gwen answers it, but no one speaks on the other end, leaving her spooked. She glances at the caller ID, and realizes the call came from room 13. But moments later, the phone call from that room rings again. To make matters worse, she notices the key to room 13 is still in the lobby. And then, when she picks up the call, next, Gwen grabs a knife, and carefully heads to room number 13. However, her heart races as she opens the door and steps inside, only to find the room completely empty. Gwen then checks the telephone to see if it's working, but behind her, we see a ghostly figure rising from the bed. But when she turns around, the ghost mysteriously disappears. She then decides to leave the room, but the phone unexpectedly rings. To her shock, the call is coming from the front desk. And then all of a sudden,
it's for you.
Outside of the room, Alice approaches her, seeking help with her hair dryer, which isn't working. After calming herself, Gwen leads Alice to the supply room to search for a hair dryer. A curious Alice asks why she was holding a knife, and what she saw in room 13. Gwen explains that she hasn't slept in 20 hours, because she just moved to this town and started this job. That's why she's been hearing and seeing bizarre things. Just then, Gwen finds the hair dryer, but Alice accidentally knocks the brick holding the door open, causing it to slam shut. This leaves the girls trapped in the supply room, as the door can only be opened from the outside. To make matters worse, Alice, who is claustrophobic, immediately goes into panic mode while Gwen tries to calm her down. Alice insists that someone else is in the room. It turns out to be a swarm of rats, which sends both women into a frenzy. But then, an unknown man appears outside, who turns out to be the food delivery guy, and he opens the door for them. Next, Alice and Gwen begin eating together, and they seem to get along well. Alice then opens up and reveals that she ran away from home, because her mom is too strict and never lets her do anything. Meanwhile, Gwen reveals that her own mother died a long time ago, and she still misses her every day. Later, Gwen heads to the vending machine to grab Cokes for them when the black car from earlier reappears. It passes by, but then makes an unsettling U-turn and returns to the motel. Gwen hurries inside, and watches in horror as the car slowly drives away from the scene. Next, Alice heads to her room, and Gwen suggests she not forget to lock the door. Moments later, Gwen hears the front desk bell ring, but when she gets there, no one is around. That's when Yogi falls from the wall again, so Gwen carefully places it back in its spot. Not long after, Gwen hears a car pulling up outside the motel. She grabs a knife and heads to the front desk, but it turns out to be just an obnoxious couple looking for a room. They begin insulting the motel, and the husband demands to rent the best room. He says he'll only be there for an hour, just enough time to be intimate with his wife, but Gwen politely tells them that they don't rent rooms on an hourly basis, and that they would need to book it for the entire night. Upon hearing this, the arrogant man is furious and begins arguing with Gwen. After insulting her salary, he throws some money at her, and pays 4 times the original price. Gwen struggles to maintain her composure, and hands over the room key. She asks them to sign the registration book, but the couple responds with more insults before storming off to their room. Later, aboard, Gwen heads to the pool, and stares at the sinkhole. As she watches, strange noises start to echo from inside it. She then tries to investigate by climbing down the ladder, but it suddenly breaks and throws her into the pool. She tries to get out, but her heart skips a beat when she notices a ghostly girl emerges from the sinkhole. The ghost also crawls toward her, right when Alice unexpectedly shows up and pulls her out of the pool. But then, we see the ghostly woman has vanished without a trace. Once inside, Alice asks Gwen what she saw in the pool earlier, but the latter remains silent. Alice then reveals that she knew the motel was haunted, which is why she came here. She's heard countless stories about the place, and wanted to see if they were true. This shocks Gwen, and then she notices the obnoxious couple is done with the room and is driving away. Next, Gwen opens up to Alice, and reveals that when she was younger, a man named Walton Gray broke into her house, and murdered her mom and sisters. He tried to kill Gwen as well, but she somehow managed to survive. The authorities then caught him and locked him up, but the psychopath managed to escape the facility just 2 days ago. Gwen is certain he is after her, because she recently discovered her mother's locket, which had been missing since her death. Gwen also claims she has already seen him twice tonight, lurking in the black car outside the motel. Upon hearing all of this, Alice is shocked and suggests that Gwen call the cops for her safety. The latter agrees and leads Alice to her room. She tells her to lock the door all night and not come out, no matter what. Here, Alice decides that she will go home in the morning. Next, Gwen tries to return to the lobby when she finds this. She quickly follows her inside, but finds no one around. Gwen's attention is then drawn to the CCTV monitor, where she sees the little girl standing. But when Gwen peeks outside the window, she finds no one there. Horrified, Gwen rushes toward the monitor, but there is no one outside now. All of a sudden, the girl ghost stands in front of the reception desk. This sends poor Gwen into panic mode, as the ghost slowly approaches her. But Gwen manages to get away and locks herself in the parlor room. She immediately calls Teddy, and yells at him for not revealing that the place is haunted. This shocks Teddy, and he assures her that although the place may look spooky, there are no ghosts there. But Gwen declares that this is her last shift and she's never coming back here. After the call, Gwen hears the reception bell ringing, which instantly unnerves her. A man's voice says hello from the front desk, and she comes across a strange man, and for some reason, his presence frightens her. He requests a room, and inquires whether he recognizes her from somewhere. But Gwen claims it's a misunderstanding, and they've never met. He then proceeds to pay for the room, while a terrified Gwen subtly tries to reach for a nearby knife but can't. Next, she gives him the key to room number 12, and he asks if she's going to lead him there. Gwen agrees, but quickly says she'll put him in room 8 instead, claiming it's been freshly cleaned. The two then head outside, and Gwen's stomach drops when she notices he's been driving the same black car from earlier. Soon, they arrive at the room, where Gwen begins to give him a quick tour, but she spots a pair of scissors she had left earlier while cleaning. Suddenly, the man locks the door behind them, and asks her name, but Gwen doesn't respond, and instead says she'll bring him clean towels. And then, while the man casually looks out the window, the man weakly asks if she doesn't remember who he is, so Gwen coldly states that he is Walton Gray. But the man reveals that his name is Raymond Bailey, and that he's her doctor. Surprisingly, she has been under his care at his psychiatric facility for the past 12 years, until she ran away 2 nights ago. Gwen refuses to believe him, and insists that he is Walton, the man who murdered her family. But in a shocking twist, Raymond reveals that it was Gwen herself who murdered her mother and sisters. Raymond calmly explains how Gwen once confessed to him that she killed her family, because they hated and mistreated her. Here, Gwen is terrified as flashbacks flood her mind, depicting the gruesome moments when she committed the murders. Raymond also reveals the chilling truth: there is no Walton Gray. It was just an anagram of her name, Gwen Taylor. Upon hearing this, Gwen is struck by the sight of the ghosts of her mother and 2 sisters standing at the door. Raymond then tries to reach for a sedative, insisting that she needs her medication because she isn't well. At this moment, a car pulls up outside, and Raymond reveals that he called the hospital after finding her. Gwen's gaze falls on the necklace, and he explains that she wore it the night she killed her family. He says it was incredibly precious to her, as it was the only gift her mother ever gave her. Hearing this, Gwen reaches for the scissors again. The frantic doctor begs her to hand them over, but she ignores him and demands that he open his mouth. Outside, 2 hospital orderlies have arrived upon the doctor's instructions. They then notice Gwen standing outside. She calmly puts on the butterfly necklace and walks inside. The 2 men follow her inside, and we see Gwen lock the door to room number 8. Moments later, Alice hears strange noises and steps outside to investigate. She opens the door to room number 8, only to be shocked by the sight of one of the orderlies lying dead on the bed, and dead Raymond. Another orderly, bloodied and injured, crawls out of the bathroom, followed by Gwen, who notices Alice, so a terrified Alice rushes back to her room. Soon, the lights in her room go out, so she frantically tries to call the cops, but the telephone is also not working. Just then, Gwen appears outside, and proceeds to open the door. A terrified Alice locks herself in the bathroom, but Gwen quickly catches up, and proceeds to break down the door, forcing Alice to climb out of the window and escapes into the night. Soon, Alice reaches the lobby, where she grabs a knife, and Gwen's car keys from her jacket. She rushes to the car, but struggles to switch the broken gear, and that's when the psycho woman smashes the window with an axe, so Alice plunges the knife into her and manages to flee. She bolts to the hospital van to leave, but finds no keys inside. With no choice, Alice sprints to room number 8, and retrieves the keys from one of the corpses, but Gwen unexpectedly appears, and drives the axe into her abdomen. Some time later, Teddy returns to the motel, but can't find Gwen anywhere. He notices room number 8 is open, and is stunned to see bloodstains on the bed. Teddy looks around, and eventually spots Gwen near the pool. He asks what she's doing there, and Gwen, in a chilling tone, tells him to come closer, and she'll show him, which leaves the man frozen in place. The scene then cuts to a year later, where we see a young man traveling through the same town, and stopping at the motel. The place looks completely transformed, and its once eerie vibe is replaced by bright pink and blue colors. The man gazes at the pool, which is now spotless and fully repaired. Moments later, Gwen, who is now the new owner, warmly greets him. She casually mentions they had a sinkhole last year, and it was so deep that it could have fit 5 people. Probably 5 dead people. Next, Gwen leads the young man to the front desk for the check-in process. She hands him the key to room number 8, and claims that it's her favorite. But to her horror, her eye catches the ghosts of her family, and Alice. Gwen leads the guy to his room and, as if on cue, the Yogi statue on the wall falls once again. And this is where the movie ends. Okay guys. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.